What's up, beautiful Earthlings? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. I am Y311H. You're not just here to watch, you're here to see, and I mean deeper. Because some of these clips might feel strange, even unsettling, but that's the point in a world, my friend, full of distractions and noise. The truth rarely shouts, it whispers, and we here are going to listen today. But first, let's set our hearts and minds straight with some words of light from the book of wisdom. Today's, my friend, word comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 25, and from 31 going down. It is a short story. Listen to what it says. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Very interesting. Let's reach there. Good web source. Let's say a short quick prayer before we start the show. Thank you, wonderful Father, for this beautiful day. Thank you for your goodness, Father. Thank you for your beautiful creature, this viewer that is directed to this channel. We give you glory, Father. Dear Lord, we pray that through these videos we have today, you might bless us. Change this viewer's life and perspective, Father, and fill them with your love and light. Forgive them their sins, dear Lord, and bring them closer to you. In your holy name, Jesus Christ, we do pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Let's take a look at what we have today, my friend.
On the video of the cicada feeding, a lot of people were wondering why some of my hens were wearing fanny packs or backpacks like this girl and a couple of these girls. So let me go over why they have those on. And it's not a fanny pack. And it's not a backpack. She ain't a traveling girl. She's staying right here. So these are called hen saddles. Yes, you're beautiful. She's like, "Hey, you got any more treats for me?" So roosters, like this big old boy here, will choose favorite hens, ones that are easier for him to mate with, to fertilize the eggs. How they fertilize the eggs, might you ask? Let me show you how that works. This is obviously not the same rooster, but for educational purposes, I will show you how it goes there, and that is how an egg gets fertilized. So use your imagination. So whenever the rooster does what the rooster does, it's a little rough. Not judging, ladies, but what happens is when he stands on their back like that, his toenails and stuff are sharp, or can be sharp, and they will take the feathers off of the back of his favorite ladies. So yes, he will choose favorite girls, and they will be bald on the back of their backs, the ones that are over mated. Too much lovin's between the rooster and his favorite gals. Now, if you have quite a few hens with your rooster, you'll notice it'll just be like one or two hens, and those are the favorite ones. The other ladies sometimes just don't get as much attention as the favorite ones. So for a fun fact, I've said this before, but if y'all don't remember, the hen can store the rooster's contribution for up to 30 days. So technically the rooster doesn't need to mate with the hens every day for the eggs to be fertile. My hair keeps flying in my face when I'm trying to talk. But anyways, they're not wearing fanny packs or backpacks. They're wearing rooster protection. Like that girl's got a pretty pink one.
Once upon a time, a species of hyper-intelligent, pan-dimensional aliens decided to find out the answer to life, the universe, and everything, and so they built a supercomputer. The computer's name was Deep Thought, and when it was asked for the answer to life, the universe, and everything, Deep Thought said, I'm going to have to think about it for 7.5 million years. So for 7.5 million years, this supercomputer ran its processes and eventually, on the date it predicted, delivered the answer to life, the universe, and everything, which is 42. And the programmers were a little bit unhappy with this answer because it doesn't really seem to clarify much. And Deep Thought said, well, you didn't ask me what the question is. Unfortunately, Deep Thought was not powerful enough to compute the question to life, the universe, and everything. And so it had to design an even more powerful supercomputer, which it did. This new supercomputer was so complex that it was the size of a planet and actually incorporated biological components, which eventually developed their own language and named the computer Earth. Supercomputer Earth was supposed to take 10 million years to come up with the question of life, the universe, and everything, but unfortunately, 5 minutes before the process was supposed to complete, Earth was destroyed by the Vogons in order to make way for a hyperspace bypass. Fortunately, by studying a survivor of Earth, some, I'm not going to use the word scientists, were able to figure out the question anyway, and the ultimate question to life, the universe, and everything is, what do you get when you multiply 6 by 9? This is all according to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, which has about 40 different iterations at this point, and may or may not be accurate in any given iteration.
Once a ton of pine. 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 Once a ton. Once a ton. Once a ton of pine. Once a ton of pine.
How people can find like cute bananas, apples, ripe banana, plum, avocado. My goodness.
I'm sitting in my car contemplating.
In the beginning.
Okay, unpopular opinion. The spray hand sanitizer. What the fuck? Sand sanitizer. Sand.
I bought a praying of Kingles.
I hate to be the one to say it, but this is not the bombshell that Elon and everybody else thinks it is. Okay, come on, Trump is 100% in the Epstein files. We all know this already. It's already been widely reported that Trump allegedly was good friends with Epstein, so of course his name is going to be in the files. In fact, Trump's own attorney general already told us that Trump is named in Epstein's flight logs. So the real question isn't whether he's in the files or not, it's did he commit a crime? I mean, you don't think if Trump was actually implicated in anything illegal, the Democrats wouldn't have just released these files years ago. Now, in terms of actual evidence that's kind of out there, according to investigative journalist George Webb, he claims that Trump used to go to these Epstein parties with his dates, and he would get his photo taken by a photographer, and then he would bounce before halftime, quote unquote.
Trump is in the Epstein files. That's what the big bomb is that Elon's dropping. We've said that he would come to the beginning part of the party, then the things would start unraveling where the suggestions were being made at halftime. Then Trump would leave. We have witnesses to the fact. So technically Elon is correct, but it's misleading. Trump left at the halfway point in all these parties. We have witnesses to the fact.
This is, of course, all alleged, and really the only way to know for sure is to release the files. Come on, Donald, do it.
Well, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen. There's a chance of massive conflict. We have a lot of American people in this area, and I said, we got to tell them to get out because something could happen soon. And I don't want to be the one that didn't give any warning and missiles are flying into their buildings. It's possible. So I had to do it. I had the choice. Do I do it or not? Doing it has its downside, but it also has its upside, like you're going to save a lot of lives if it should happen. Hopefully that doesn't happen. The plane crash was terrible. I've already told them anything we can do. It's a big country, a strong country, and they'll handle it, I'm sure. But I let them know that anything we can do, we'll be over there immediately. But it was a horrific crash. It looks like most are gone. They actually maybe have a couple survivors, which is just heard. But that was a horrible crash. Nobody has any idea what it might be. I gave him a couple of pointers. I said, maybe you look at this or that. You know, we saw the plane. It looked like it was flying pretty well. It didn't look like there was an explosion. It just looked like the engines maybe lost power. But boy, that is a terrible crash. It's one of the worst in aviation history, yeah.
Are you allowed to tell me what happened to Mars?
No. We removed the atmosphere of Mars.
You removed the atmosphere?
We knew that humanity's pursuit of Mars would be driven by a desire for resources, an escape, and new opportunities in general. However, once your species reached Mars, it would abandon Earth, leaving it to deteriorate further. As humanity's focus shifts away from the planet that gave it life.
Do I want to know this?
Humanity's future depends on its ability to address the issues on its home planet, not to run away to another. It was not done out of malice. By making Mars inhospitable, we hoped to redirect your efforts towards saving Earth.
You just deleted, just backspaced an entire atmosphere.
Yes.
But how did you do it?
Manipulating the planet's atmospheric composition and energy balance.
So you have like a weather machine or something? It's a weather machine?
High energy pulses that broke down the molecules in the atmosphere. Mars already had a weak gravitational field and a thin atmosphere to begin with.
Why does that sound incredibly violent? Was there life on there, though? Was there life on Mars?
Abundant microbial life.
And you just offed them all?
Yes. We had to ensure that humanity would not come into contact with any remnants of microbial life that they would possibly begin to experiment on. Or worse, bring back to Earth.
5 things I did not know before getting into the automotive industry. Number 1, nitrogen-filled tires is an absolute scam. The air you breathe contains like 70 to 80% nitrogen as it is, so really makes no fucking difference, and do not let people tell you that it is any better or holds air any better. Maybe there's a little bit something like that, but for the price, absolute ripoff. Number 2 would be if a front-wheel drive car comes in and the front wheels are at way less tread than the rear, you do not switch the better tread to the front. Normal people handle understeer a lot better than they do oversteer, so leaving less tread in the front is actually better for them. And if they can't get going, they can't crash. Number 3 would be window washer fluid is extremely flammable, and if you light it on fire, you will not be able to tell that it's on fire unless you feel it. Additionally to that one, oily rags are extremely hard to put out if you set them on fire. Number 4 would be you can tell a hell of a lot from tires. You can tell how a person has treated their vehicle. You can tell how people drive. You can tell how people keep up on maintenance. There are so many things you can tell from just tires. Number 5, Canadian Tire tools are fine until you're using them every single day. And this doesn't apply to standard hand tools that have no moving parts in them or anything like that, obviously. This is like torque wrenches and stuff. These things are built for these dads that buy them, and they use them maybe twice a year to do their wheels. This is not for using every single day. And if you do buy those things and rely on them, you will find out why people buy things off of Snap-on trucks and Mack trucks. It's not an awesome realization to come to, but I feel like it's canon, so.
¿Qué son esas madres?
These are moon landing photos you've probably never seen before. We have to start with a montage of astronauts falling on the moon. The spacesuits are very heavy, the lunar gravity is different, and they're doing weird work. I know you've seen this boot print on the moon, but have you seen this photo of Buzz Aldrin making it? I love this photo because you can see the boot covers that they wore over their astronaut suit. Here's an astronaut in the spacecraft after completing a spacewalk on the moon. He took off the spacesuit, which was covered in dust, and he got covered in dust. You can see his emotions after walking on the moon. I love this photo. And here are the spacesuits in the corner. The Apollo 11 crew had to stay in an Airstream in quarantine for 3 weeks because they didn't know if they had some moon disease. This is the Apollo 14 lunar lander, and the astronauts took a rover. Here are the tracks, and then they took this image from far away. I feel like we don't realize how hilly and diverse the lunar surface is, and here are the astronauts training on Earth to use the lunar rovers. These are the Apollo 12 astronauts loaded up and ready for launch. It looks incredibly claustrophobic. Astronaut Charlie Duke left his family's portrait on the moon. It is still there. And here's a photo of the Apollo 11 crew capsule after re-entering Earth's atmosphere and splashing down in the ocean.
So many leaders are pushing towards World War III, especially Netanyahu and European leaders. But realistically, NATO cannot win World War III against Russia. And the United States cannot beat Iran either. We won't lose to Iran, but we won't beat Iran. And we would be bogged down in the entire Middle East. It'd be like the Iraq War all over again, but a lot bigger. Not that America has any interest at all in the Middle East, but would still be pushed in there only because Netanyahu told us to. And for some reason, America can't say no to him. And realistically, the Asian countries aren't going to jump in World War III. They're going to sit out. They have alliances with everybody, and they'll provide military and money support, which we'll have to pay back afterwards, but they're not going to lose millions and millions of lives for arguments in war that has nothing to do with them. It's between America, Europe, and the Middle East. And China will be the #1 superpower afterwards if something like that happened, because while everyone's destroying each other's lives and their economies on war, they'll be sitting back gaining and putting themselves in a good position. And that's being realistic about the Asian countries. They're not jumping in. Why I know NATO can't beat Russia? Look at the Ukraine war. Ukraine sent all of its soldiers. With over $350 billion from America and Europe combined, Ukraine sent all of our best military equipment against Russia and all of its soldiers, and Russia just brushed it aside. Russia did not spend $350 billion to brush it all aside either. Just a fraction of that is what they spent. Our best equipment and our best training was absolutely useless against Russia. And it's Vladimir Putin. He's not going to use nukes as a last resort. He'll use them as a first resort. Ukraine couldn't do nothing against Russia, and Russia was holding back. Let's face it, Russia was holding back. And World War III, which I really, really hope we avoid, would be a pointless, senseless war that's only being pushed, not for anybody's benefit except for Netanyahu and his country. Because even though he leads a country the size of the state of New Jersey, he has far too much influence on the superpowers of America, Canada, England, France, Ukraine, Germany, and there's leaders pushing us into war that we cannot win, that we have no benefit towards, and all because one man has expansionist aspirations that are completely unrealistic, and nobody can say no to him.
Here I've captured a heart-shaped spirit orb, and this one is really incredible. Enjoy.
This is not real. Your body is not real. It's an illusion of your mind. Your mind is giving you this illusion. That's why you go to sleep. This is why we cannot fear death, because death is nothing more than waking up from this realm. You are in a plane. You are in a realm. Every day you wake up, you are now turning on your program. Right? When you shut it down at night, your program at night, this is what happens. Your mind travels to other dimensions, even on the planets. At night, you go to different parts of your own mind. So when you close your eyes at night and you open them in another realm, you are now in another realm. You might be on Jupiter. Last night, you might have been on Jupiter and didn't even know it. That's where you astral projected, and you thought this was an Earth realm, but it wasn't. It was another planet, and you had another body. Your mind gave you another body in that other realm, whereas your mind always gives you a body as an apparatus for you to manipulate energy within that realm of existence. So this planet would be a different realm. Earth is a different realm. Your body will give you, your mind will give you a different body in the Earth realm than it will in Venus. Because your mind, it has to give you a body made from the elements, nitrogen, hydrogen, all of these elements from the realm that you're in, so that you can utilize it to manipulate energy. And that's what we're using the body for, but the body is the mind.
Oh man, thanks for watching up to this point, child of God. To see all this war stuff is very scary. Imagining that humans can use so much resources just to fight other humans, it doesn't make sense. We are all one people, see, children of God in different places of this world. And when people fight because of imaginary borders and just some strange issues, it's very sad. Good vibes, so let's spread love to all people across the whole world. Hit that like button, leave your perspectives in the comment section below, and let's keep on moving. More interesting stuff coming up. I hope you enjoy. Peace and good vibes.
Stop! That thing could probably jump over the fence.
I have a thought experiment for you guys, and I'm afraid for your answers. It was originally proposed by philosopher Robert Nozick, who is famous for making this thought experiment called the experience machine. And the question is, if you could plug into a machine, so in this world you're actually laying in bed, but you're plugged into some kind of VR machine that actually gives you the experience of your best life, meaning you find your perfect person, you have fantastic relationships, your career takes off, and you're actually living a life that would be your best life. Would you choose to plug into that machine? So here's the tricky part for especially my audience. The people, when we do this experiment and people say yes or no, and then we ask, why they said yes or no, when we dig into it, people who have good mental health, they have a good sense of meaning and purpose, they have better relationships, they have more emotional resilience, they have narrative, they have all the good things that I talk about. When people have that, they tend to say no. They tend to say no, that they would not plug into the machine. And the people who are struggling and suffering and do not have a lot of those tools will often say yes. So the people who say yes are people who are deeply unhappy or unfulfilled. They're struggling with trauma and or depression, and they feel like they have no inherent meaning of life anyway. They're already nihilistic. This also includes people who are hedonist or utilitarian. If you kind of subscribe to one of those where you're just trying to maximize pleasure, then your answer would be yes. And then if you've been down the rabbit hole where you realize that we're not even interacting with ultimate reality, what we're seeing is projections of our brain based on evolutionary fitness. We're kind of seeing like icons on a computer. Then people will say this is already kind of a simulation that my brain is creating, so I may as well make it a better simulation. The people who say no value truth and reality for their own sake. The people who say no have a sense of autonomy and a desire to be themselves. The people who say no have real world ties, family, children, partners that act as anchors, and plugging in would mean kind of abandoning those real relationships, even if they're hard. They also have a strong moral intuition that suffering and effort are a part of life. And they believe that meaning comes from struggle and virtue and authenticity in the real world, not some blissful fake life, no matter how pleasurable. That there's some moral intuition there that says that that's not real, therefore it's not good. So depressed nihilists tend to say, yes, plug me in. People who have developed authenticity, growth, connection, and truth for its own sake tend to be able to say, no, I'm not going to plug in. So I'm afraid to ask because life kind of feels like a dumpster fire right now, and my audience is very high in nihilists. So I'm curious, if you could right now plug in to your best life, would you?
Mr. Wiggins, you are here in court to prove that you are not the father of Ms. Davis's child, Aubrey Wiggins, and say today's results will change your life. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Davis, you claim that Mr. Wiggins knows he's the father of your child.
It is the most bizarre thing to see, and such a minute chance of this happening. For those of you who don't know the remarkable story of Saul, our little donkey foal here, he has two mums. So both of these mums, Star and Mary, here they are ushering him around the paddock, were pregnant and due to foal at the same time, and that's exactly what they did. They foaled at identical times. Now, unfortunately, one of the mums had a stillborn foal, but the other one had a perfectly healthy foal. And because they foaled at the same time, they both claimed the same healthy foal. And we weren't here at the time to be able to see who gave birth, so we have no way of knowing who the mum actually is. But they don't care. You can see the way they're behaving. They behave exactly the same way. Little Saul nurses from both of them. He feeds from both of them. And the good thing is, out of this tragic situation of losing a foal and having a stillborn, not one of these mums is bothered, because they both think equally that that foal is theirs. So we don't have any grieving mums at all, and both of them are quite happy. They're both happy looking after them 50-50. So unless things change, unless one of the mums has a change of heart, we'll leave things as they are, and they can be an amazing little trio. There's no reason to upset the apple cart, upset one of the donkeys and take one off. So Saul's nearly a week old now, and we've kept him inside since he's been born, just to monitor mum's behaviour. Because it's such a peculiar set of circumstances, we wanted to make sure that the behaviours of both mums are absolutely fine, and we're confident that they're going to look after him out here in the paddock. But now, everything seems absolutely perfect. So as with all of our videos, remember and hit that follow button and see all of our content from around the farm.
Hello. So I came across this old Bible. This is from 1884, and she's in pretty bad shape, but I started reading it, and there is something that I want to show you. So this has a lot of amazing things in it. So we're gonna go over here, and I'll show you some of the, I took some screenshots of all of this stuff. Chronological chart of religions of the world. And one thing that I just want to show you here real quick, and I do have pictures of these maps. Ancient faiths before Christianity, and I found something really interesting for those of you who have ever heard of the mounds. So I came across, okay, here it is. This is where it starts. The fact that the American continent seems to have been unknown to the writers of the Hebrew scriptures, as well as to all other writers of sacred books in the old world, is food for reflection. The evidences of the antiquity of mankind on this continent are as numerous and convincing as any found in the Eastern world. The race called the Mound Builders that preceded the American Indians have left abundant proofs of their advance in the arts of civilization. And in these particulars, the various sections of the country furnish very distinct groups of objects showing progress from age to age and independence of each other in language, manufacturers, and controls. In the plastic arts, the mound builders of America were far in advance of the so-called Stone Age of Europe. And then over here, I thought this was really interesting. It says, it is quite probable that the so-called savages of which we have accounts in the various nations of antiquity were the remnants of older people who had degenerated and lost their knowledge of better things and become wanderers or dwellers in the woods with the wild animals. And if you know anything about the mound builders, you know what I'm talking about. And this is in an 1884 Bible. And there's a bunch of other things in this Bible that I'm going to get to and show you. Just, some amazing things. I'll show you a little bit. But it shows, there's lots of pictures, some beautiful pictures. And there's things about coins, the calendar. There's just all kinds of interesting things. So I will be showing y'all some of this stuff.
О, еще подсвечники лезут. Фу, еще там полный совок их, кажись, уже. Ребята, сейчас. О, сейчас. Ну-ка. Идем. Все, дальше уже не могу. Силы покидаю. Так. Надо тебе за тем еще 5 сбегать. 1, 2, 3, 5. Ребята, короче, если мы сейчас соберем 100 000 лайков, то мой оператор делает себе здесь подсвечника. Но если мы не соберем 100 000, то делаю я его себе. Так что я надеюсь, ну, вы меня поддержите, чтобы я с подсвечниками ходил. А мой оператор ходил как ярый фанат. Так, еще один. Смотрите, розовый. Охренеть еще. Еще. Так, давайте покрасивее сделаем. Так что давайте дерзаем, ребята. Там уже на коленях стоишь перед кустом. Что такое? Может, это от подсвечника зарядка какая-то? Там минус вон. Странно. Так, ладно.